Nobody would want to be you. I mean, this is the worst thing that anyone could ever imagine happening to somebody. I mean, nobody would want this for themselves. That was what my dad said to me about 2 days after my husband died. You see, he was sitting on the couch next to me and he was sort of flabbergasted, in shock. We all were. He looked at me and said, "I don't understand how this could happen." He was only 44. I'm in my 60s and I have a bad heart and I'm still here. Why did you lose your husband? I know it sounds like my dad is the worst motivational speaker ever, but he was really just trying to express how incredibly worried he was about us. You see, not only had Tom died, but 2 days before, I'd shattered my kneecap after healing from a full knee replacement. I was only 45. It meant that my career as a teacher would be over. My dad knew I now had no husband, no career, and I was going to be facing a lot more surgery alone. And I had 4 children. This is not what a dad wants for his daughter. So it's understandable that he would sit there and ponder, why on earth did this happen? And I know many of you are probably doing the same thing about your situations. My dad's moment of concern did have one really profound effect, and that was that I knew in that moment that this was not going to beat me, that this was a challenge, absolutely, but that he was right. This was quite possibly the worst thing that I might ever face. But if I could overcome this and do it for my family, then nothing could stop me again. So I used that as motivation. Now, I'll tell you, we had a very hard road to climb. I was crippled with 3 teenagers and 1 3-year-old, all of them suffering in different forms and stages of grief. And on top of it, now without a leg, I couldn't take care of them. I couldn't do the things that I usually was able to do. I couldn't cook and I couldn't drive them places and I couldn't do the laundry and I couldn't do the house cleaning and I couldn't go back to work. My career was toast. There was no way I was going to be able to spend 10 hours a day on my feet every single day and still function. So there was a lot to handle. On top of it, I had to close a business and I had to negotiate an estate. I had to deal with an old business partner who was crooked and stole most of the estate. And at the same time, my husband didn't have any life insurance and canceled the mortgage insurance without me knowing. Yeah, there was a lot to come. I even had in-laws who were not handling grief well and who attacked me even on the very night that my husband died and then were after the will the next morning. People do not always behave well under these kinds of circumstances, and it was really up to me in order to be able to know how to move forward and handle it, how to navigate those issues, those problems, and set up really healthy boundaries and at the same time rebuild a joyful life for my family. It seemed overwhelming, but I wasn't going to stop. I had the best excuse in the world. I love my family, and it was my job to see us through. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We reframed our situation, watched the stories that we told ourselves. We communicated with each other. The children, older, grew into more responsibility, but they always knew that mom was the coach calling the play and that nothing was ever going to stop us from being okay, no matter what. I healed my heart and I healed my leg. We had 2 more reconstructive surgeries and I had a great medical team behind me. I took care of myself so I could take care of them. And I knew exactly who could help us do all of that. Wherever I needed information, I searched for it. And I knew that we could solve every single problem we came up against, practically, creatively, or spiritually. We learned to watch the stories that we told ourselves because I knew that our thinking begets our emotions, and our emotions beget our actions, and those actions become our personal reality. I made sure to teach that model to my children. I also wanted to make sure that they knew that letting go of grief did not mean letting go of Tom, that he would always be a part of our lives, that we'd never forget about him. And in fact, we would always carry a piece of him forward with us into this wonderful new joyous life that we could rebuild from scratch if we had to. My dad finally passed a couple of months ago. And I know that if he were sitting right next to me now, he'd be saying, honey, now everyone wants to be you. You did it. You got over the impossible. Help me help you become the dandelion you are. Uncrushable, unstoppable. Help me help your family build that kind of resilience. I actually did my dad's eulogy. I never thought I'd be strong enough to do that. But through divorce, the loss of my husband, the loss of my health, the loss of my career, I've suddenly realized I can do anything. And so can you. If this resonated with you, and if you know you could use some hints and tips, some guidance and some support through this really difficult process, I would like to help you. Join me for the Dandelion Way, thriving as the surviving. I want to be able to make sure that people who are in my situation have absolutely every tool possible they need to move forward and rebuild their lives for themselves and their family. You're worth it. They're worth it. And your loved one would want this for you.